So it's all to play for still.
I think so. Do you want to bet against us?
Hi, everybody, and welcome to For the Love of Paul McGrath podcast. Just wanted to jump on with a really, really quick one, just to discuss somebody who, well, to be honest with you, I was asked to do a little piece on this person by somebody on Twitter last night, and it's to discuss Loïs Openda from RC Lens. Just we were linked with him yesterday, and I'll give you a small bit of my opinion on him. Somebody that is definitely not going under the radar in European football. Every club knows about him because he's been in absolutely scintillating form over the course of the last 3 seasons, really, since he went on loan from Club Brugge to Vitesse Arnhem in 2020. He's had 3 really, really good seasons. He's still only 23 years of age. He's made his Belgian debut as well during that period of time. He's 8 appearances for Belgium and has scored 2 goals. So we're going to take a little look at this player just to give you a little bit of background for him. He plays as a centre forward for Lens. There is some chatter with regards to him potentially playing out wide and such. When I've looked at any of the game logs for him, or when I've looked at him and gotten footage of him playing out wide, it seems to be when he comes on in that position, maybe, and it's more so coming on as a 10 more so than as an out and out wide midfielder or as an out and out winger as well. So what I'm going to define him as a forward player as opposed to giving him a definition, because he essentially is a centre forward that sometimes drops back into that 10 position. And why am I making a distinction between that is because at the moment we've got Ollie Watkins up top and we've got Emi Buendia who plays beside him. The dynamic between the two players is very much a striker in Ollie Watkins and a player that creates space, drops a bit deeper, and can move across that line. It would move into the half spaces, should I say, from that number 10 space that Buendia does. And when Bailey does it, he plays in that kind of position as well. Obviously, I think that Buendia is better at it because he can move across the field better than Bailey can as well. And why am I mentioning that? Because I think Loïs Openda can be that player also, while also being able to step in and be that more accustomed number 9 as well if he is to play up top. So as I say, he plays centre forward, pretty dynamic player. You know, one of the things you're going to read about Openda is his pace. He's a really pacey player. Anybody who's played any online computer game, whether it be Football Manager, whether it be FIFA, everybody will be aware of the high scores that he has with regards to his pace, his acceleration, his sprint speeds and stuff like that. And while we would never, ever, ever dream of taking that as an absolute whenever we're looking at a player. Well, sorry, I certainly wouldn't ever dream of taking that as an absolute when looking at a player. When I propped him up on MyScout, you know, you can see he definitely has pace. He's 5'9". He's not a big guy, taller than me, but he's not a big tall guy. But he utilizes his speed really well, and as I say, he gets on the end of things, which is absolutely superb. For a player like him as well. He's a technical player. You know, he was born in Liège in Belgium, so he's had all his footballing upbringing prior to moving to Vitesse and then also on to Ligue and onto Lens. All his footballing upbringing was done in Belgium. In fairness to Belgium, over the last 15, 20 years, they've really focused on the technical aspect of players. And I think realistically, they've always had a good technical aspect to their play, much like the Dutch do via their academies as well. And he certainly has that too. I mentioned he's 5'9", and I don't want that to put anybody off because he's able to hold his own ground for a guy who's 5'9". I've seen a couple of scouting reports on him previously, and I've seen a couple of people say that he's really, really strong. I don't see him use strength, if that makes sense. I don't see him bullying people or bursting past people. I don't see him in that mold of a Carlos Tevez, who was really like, you could see he was strong. He was physically upper body built. He could push players off the ball, and yet he was in a small stature. I don't see that. I see it. I see his strength more so come from the point of view that he's able to, he's able to brush past people. Now, he does get fouled an awful lot as well. If we remember back to Jack Grealish, when Jack Grealish used to get fouled and create a lot of opportunities for Aston Villa in and around the box, Openda can do that as well, because he's very dynamic in his movement too. But from a strength point of view, he's not going to get muscled off the ball, but he's not going to be that little ball of muscle as well that we would associate maybe with a smaller player like Carlos Tevez, from that point of view. So I just wanted to make that distinction. It's a distinction without a difference, I think, really, but I think it's also important as well. As we know, Aston Villa like to play on the counter-attack, and what do you need for counter-attacking football? You need people who can drop deep and can break at pace. At this moment in time, we do lack a small bit of pace in this team, so I can see the reasoning behind somebody like a Loïs Openda being on the scouting reel for sure. It's one of the reasons why I was really buoyed by the fact that Villa were linked previously with Jonathan David, who everybody knows is a real darling of mine, as well, because they bring that ability to be able to break at pace, get into the box really quickly, or be able to carry the ball as well. And Openda is a very good dribbler of the ball, while since he's been at RC Lens, he's not really been tasked with dribbling the ball as much as he was at Vitesse for those 2 seasons. And he had one magic season at Vitesse, and we'll discuss that in a moment as well when we look more on the numbers side of things. At the moment, I'm just kind of discussing what I've seen from him as well. So as I say, with regards to the counter-attacking ability he has, you see vast amounts of more so, I suppose, really when he was with Vitesse, you see a lot more ability to be able to beat a defender one-on-one, get around the back of defenders as well, carry the ball himself. Since he's gone to Lens, he's been more tasked with being more of an Ollie Watkins, of being that finisher type, while obviously being able to display it as well. He hasn't done it as much because the team dictates that he doesn't. They've got some really good players in Lens, like Sekou Fofana, who's in there, who do a lot of the donkey work of carrying the ball and being a lot of the creative aspect within the team, amongst other players. So they need somebody up there that can finish the ball, and Openda certainly can do that, because he is primarily a goal scorer. No matter what age group he's been at, he's scored goals. And he's good at scoring from different areas of the pitch as well. Specifically when you look at, once again, since he's gone to Lens and he's been able to focus on being that primary striker, a lot of his goals, I don't know off the top of my head, but just from memory of watching his goals for Lens, a lot of them come inside the box. But when you watch his goals for Vitesse, he's able to carry the ball a small bit more, and he's had a lot more varied range of scoring, which is fine, so he's shown he can do it. And I think that's important to have within the Premier League, specifically if you're going to be a support striker type option beside Ollie Watkins, if that's where he is to come in within this team. He's got a really good shot accuracy rating, which we'll see in a moment as well. And he does take a high volume of shots per game, far more shots than the players that we have already. So that's one thing that the economy of Ollie Watkins, and I've updated Ollie Watkins statistics on these slides to factor in his most recent goal scoring form. And also I've updated Danny Ings as well to factor in the time that he's had since he's gone to West Ham. And this isn't an Ings versus Watkins thing. It's just they're really the 2 key strikers that we have, that we can kind of show where we are as a team, and have had decent time and decent minutes with the team so far this season. For obvious reasons, I don't have John Duran in there, and for obvious reasons, I don't have Buendia and Leon Bailey in there either. So I've continued to keep Danny Ings in there, considering he played 6 months with the team, and obviously Ollie Watkins is in there because he's been our king since Emery has come in. Openda shows some good composure in front of goals, is a note I've written down here. He is a very good finisher. I think it was a game I watched where they played Clermont Foot, and he scored a hat-trick in that game. I'm trying to remember. He scored a hat-trick in 2 games. I think he scored a hat-trick against Toulouse as well. And I can't remember which one it was, but I'm nearly certain it was Clermont Foot. He showed a brilliant ability to just be able to take measured kind of snapshot, if that makes sense. So it was really measured, and just the goals were good. Um, if it was the Clermont Foot game, I'm thinking of, the goals were good indicators of his ability. He scored 2 hat-tricks, as I said, this season. He scored 17 goals in the league this season already. And 2 hat-tricks. So, one of the things I will say about Loïs Openda is that he has had some situations whereby he's gone 4, 5, 6 games without scoring, but he's a young striker. We've also seen that from Ollie Watkins as well in the early part of this season. But he's a young striker. You would expect that. He's only turned 23 since February this season. But we'll look at his statistics in a moment. He scored 28 goals in one season for Vitesse Arnhem, and basically shot the lights out for them and shot them into European football. He was second in the runner-up in the Erdivese Golden Boot to Sebastian Heller, who was playing lights out as well for Ajax that season. So he did show an awful lot of pedigree, and that's what made RC Lens sign him for 10 million as well. As I mentioned previously, Openda's after ball movement is really good. He's intelligent. He knows when to utilize his burst of pace. He doesn't run with the handbrake off all the time. Maybe like Leon Bailey does. He knows when to utilize those bursts of bursts of pace, should I say, to get out of trouble and also to progress the ball forward as much as he needs to. He's a clever player, and he's I know it's topical at the moment because there's snooker going on, but if you think about a snooker player who thinks about 2 or 3 shots ahead, you can kind of see that with Openda, that he's trying to manipulate the ball into a certain area so that he can maybe catch a player one-on-one and try a trick or something like that, or even get a player so that he's maybe shielding the goalkeeper's sight before he takes a shot. And it's difficult to kind of to highlight any areas where you can actually see that, but you always get that feeling from him when he's dribbling with the ball. It's not just a straight line motion a lot of the time, and I like to see that in a player as well. Obviously, there's areas he's going to be able to improve in. We're going to see his passing statistics in a moment. They ain't entered the right home about. So his passing accuracy could very much improve as well. Once again, he's a young player who's been asked to do something different for RC Lens this season, and he's banging in the goals. So I would imagine if you were to ask any Lens fan, do you have a problem with his passing ability? I would say they would say no, as long as he keeps passing it into the back of the net. They don't really care about that as well. He offers nothing defensively. I mean, nothing defensively does he offer. So don't be expecting him to bust along like a Buendia and get back and maybe try and get a pass in and get a block in. He doesn't offer really much anything. He does have a couple of ball recoveries, all right, but this guy is an out-and-out striker. So I don't know whether he can do it. I presume he can do it. He hasn't been asked to do it for Vitesse, or he hasn't been asked to do it for RC Lens as well. So for me to kind of denigrate him for that, I'm not going to, because I just haven't seen his ability to be able to do it. Whether he can do it or not, if he comes into the Premier League, would be very much something that will have to be seen as well. But look, he's a real promising centre forward. He's not a secret within Europe at all. And we're going to take a little look at some of his statistics here. So let's pop him up. So as I said, there he is, all happy with himself after scoring a goal for RC Lens. So if we move on here to his attacking statistics here, we can see some very, very good attacking stats, as I mentioned there previously. 3.79 shots on goal, 47.7% shot on target rate, 0.20 goals per shots percentage. The average shot distance, as I mentioned before, this is over the last 365 days since moving to RC Lens as well, is within the penalty area. So he's been a penalty area striker predominantly for that period of time. The aerial duels won 41.4%. Like, as I said, he is only 5'9", so I wouldn't be expecting him to be that real massive, big hold-up player, although he is plenty strong enough to be able to brush off tackles when he's in movement as well. Chances missed. He's missed 10 chances this season. If you take more shots, you're going to miss more chances. That's one of the things that I would say here when we look at our radial graph to the right-hand side here. We've got the amount of shots that people take and the goals per shot ratio that they have. You can see that Ings and Ings had a huge goal per shot ratio previously at the start of the season when he was with Aston Villa. Since moving to West Ham, that's come down a bit. He is now at the same goals per shot ratio, give or take, There's Ollie Watkins, which is coming in, I think, about 0.17, I think is what it is. Openda has a 0.20 shots per goal ratio. So he's taking more shots, scoring more goals from those, and he's got a better shot on target rate than Danny Ings, and in and around the same shot on target rate as Ollie Watkins. And we know Ollie Watkins has a very good shots on target rate as well. Scoring frequency once every game and a half, which is fantastic too. We're looking here at his pass attempts, as I mentioned there. In the build-up play, he isn't tasked with doing an awful lot for Lens. You can see it here in the statistics. Doesn't have an awful lot of passing attempts, and as we can see there, if you don't have a lot of attempts, your completion rate can either be massively high or can be massively low. But based on the small sample set there, we can see pass completion rate is 66% for him. Would need to be a bit better in the Premier League, I think, for sure. But I'm sure if he was to come in and play under Unai Emery, that's something that would be drilled into him. He'd be given a slightly different role than he is at Lens at the moment. But one of the big things that we need to look at here is his shot creating actions, and his goal creating actions are quite high as well. When we look at they're decent, should I say? They're middle of the pack. So even though he doesn't have an awful lot of awful good pass completion rate, he's able to create shots, he's able to create goals for both himself and for other players as well. Once again, touches 26.16 touches per game. He's dispossessed very, very fleetingly, 0.88 times per game, which is really good. We want to see that. He's 1.06 crosses per game, and I think that percentage that I have highlighted there for his crosses, I think that needs to be changed. It doesn't look too right to me, because he barely crosses the ball in per game. So I would imagine that that is incorrect there on my. Oh no, it's not. It's right. 82%. Moral of the story, everyone: don't doubt yourself. With ball recoveries at 2.21 ball recoveries per game is down the bottom third of all strikers there as well. So he doesn't get involved in the defensive game whatsoever. Really, he's not tasked with doing it more so. Then he doesn't get involved. Over the course of his young career, he's completed 90 minutes 88.9 times in his career. He scored 49 goals and he's 9 assists. So that's a pretty decent goal return rate. And as I mentioned previously, he had a superb year for Vitesse Arnhem, playing 50 games in 2021-22 season, played 50 games, scoring 28 goals overall during the course of that season. And the breakdown there was 9 goals in Europe and 19 goals in the league, in the Erdivese that season. He was on loan from Club Brugge, and as I said, that enticed Lens to make the move for him. So far this year, he's played 36 games for Lens, and he has scored 17 goals and propelled them up into third position, I think, in Ligue 1 at the moment. Obviously, during that period of time last year, he was capped as a Belgian international. He in 2022 he had 6 games, scoring 2 goals, and he's had 2 appearances in 2023 as well. So overall, when we look at him here in comparison to some of our strikers, we can see here I wasn't lying with the fact that he takes a lot more shots than our incumbent strikers there as well. When I talk about his ball recovery rate, he recovers it at the same clip as a Danny Ings or Ollie Watkins, but he doesn't get stuck into tackles. His tracking back is very much, he's got an imaginary line in the field where he doesn't pass, and that's okay too. That's a managerial preference, I think, as well, and that's absolutely fine. One of the big things here that we'll see is his scoring frequency. And I know that a lot of these are based on the fact that Ollie Watkins obviously went through barren spell during the course of this season prior to Unai Emery coming in. But we can see here that Openda is a regular scorer of goals. There have been a period of games where he did go without scoring. He went from... Actually, he went a pretty decent period of time. He went from the 14th of January all the way up to actually the start of March without scoring goals. Now, he was in and out of the team there. There was some slight niggling injuries. He was coming off the bench in a couple of those games. He only played less than half an hour in those games as well. But there was a couple of niggling injuries. But he came back then, as I said, on the 12th of March, scored hat-tricks against Clermont Foot, scored 2 goals then against Angers the week after, and he looked to have gotten his injuries, gotten over those injuries or the recovery from those injuries as well. So that is Loïs Openda. I think it's hopefully it's been an in-depth review of him. Whether he signs for Aston Villa, I couldn't tell you. I could not tell you. But if we're going to be linked with players, we're going to look at players, and I think that it's valid to try and see the types of players, as I've said before, that Aston Villa are going to be linked with. The source for this link, I'm not 100% sure on the source of this link. Um, they do tend to link a lot of players to a lot of teams. Now, they could be right. But as I say, am I holding out hope for this? I don't know. It's really the answer to it. But if we were to bring in a player of this type or of this ilk, the costing of this player suits, I suppose, suits our budget for sure. But if we were going to bring in a player like this, I could definitely see where a player like Openda would fit in with Aston Villa Football Club. Whether we sign him or not is yet to be determined. Me myself, I think it's a long shot because I think that that while he does have the ability and so on. I just have no idea what Unai Emery or who Unai Emery has in his sights at the moment. And if it is Loïs Openda, then absolutely fantastic. We'll take a greater look into him once the links become a bit more concrete. So hopefully that has helped or has been a beneficial to any of you guys watching. We will be doing more and more scouting as the season draws to a close. It's what I love doing the most. But in the meantime, for any of you guys watching this live or for watching this back on the 28th of April, Friday the 28th of April, myself and Paddy will be back with a preview of the Manchester United game later on this evening at 9:30. Please join us for that. We'd love to have you on board, and we will also be back then with our team sheet tantrums and our post match after the Manchester United game on Sunday, the 30th of April as well. So in the meantime, everybody, have a fantastic evening, and we'll see you later. And all that's left to say is up the Villa.